Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum, it's Ahmed Sham here, and this is a full review of the Lenovo L340 Gaming after 2 weeks of using. So Lenovo introduced a very powerful specifications here. You get the i7-9750H, you get the GTX 1650, and 16GB of RAM with only single channel, a very fast SSD, and Full HD IPS display. And at what cost? First of all, the screen. It isn't too bright, it's a little bit dim, and only covers 54% of sRGB. The awkward cooling system, which requires you to lift the laptop a little bit to get the most out of it. The trackpad, which is a little bit inaccurate. The speakers, which have really low bass, so it gives you the surrounded sound you want, but you won't get that high bass from it. You'll see in the comparison. So, there is only one wide vent at the bottom with two fans on the left side. The air exhaust opening is under the screen hinge, which is unfortunate. It could have been better. The port selection is average. You only get 2 USB Type-A and 1 USB Type-C port, and there is no SD card slot. The hinge behavior is a little bit awkward. It is stiff, but the screen shakes back and forth from, for example, a disk vibration, but it stops at the end. Not very quick though. The IPS Full HD panel gives you great viewing angles, which makes sharing movies and videos easier with others. One thing this screen isn't good at is color reproduction, so you can depend on it for professional Photoshop color editing. And the most thing I noticed myself about that is the red shades. It has poor degrees of the red color. But it's great otherwise. It is eye-catching while gaming. It is a gaming laptop anyway. I noticed that some owners complain about the yellowish display and they are afraid it is because of faulty screen, but it isn't. In fact, it is an option in the Lenovo Vantage software which is called Eye Care, and it filters blue light for your eye safety, so there is no problem here. One of the things I love about this laptop is the keyboard, with its two-stage eye-catching blue backlighting. It is really comfortable to use, either you are gaming or typing, and it has full numpad. The only downward here is the up and down keys, which are very compressed against each other. Lenovo could have just resized the shift key instead. With the plastic build, this chassis is a fingerprint magnet, but you can remove the fingerprints in ease with a piece of cloth. The trackpad has a very quiet sound that you can hear if you pressed on it. It is noticeable at the lower corners. But with normal use, you can't really hear it. It isn't the clicking sound. This is it. I said in the beginning that the speakers lack bass, so here is a comparison between the L340 and the Z510, but don't get disappointed, as the Z510 was mainly for multimedia, so it's normal that it has a well-toned speakers, and the L340 speakers are very good in quality and producing stereo effects, which is essential for gaming. It is a gaming laptop anyway. Try to use headphones and lower the volume a little bit. Let's test them.
I'm moving too far. Getting close. Moving too far. Getting close.
The fans in the L340 is almost silent when idle, but when running at max speed, you can hear it if you are in a quiet room, and if you lift the laptop to provide better airflow, you can hear the bar sounds. Like most of the gaming laptops, the camera is only there if you need it. You can't get much details out of it, it lacks sharpness and oversaturates the picture, but the microphone is really good and the sound is clear and crisp. Let's get to the benchmarks. The L340 supports rapid charge, and when I tested it, it could go all the way from 0 to 100% in 1 hour and 20 minutes. And in the drain test, I used Chrome browser in watching YouTube videos at 480p with 50% brightness and 50% volume, and the laptop went from 100 to 0% in 5 hours and 8 minutes with exactly 10% drained every 30 minutes. For video editing, I could get a 16-minute Full HD video to export in 7 minutes and 23 seconds while on stock settings, and in 6 minutes and 32 seconds when undervolted by 130 mV. Next, I tested Cinebench Release 20, which tests the rendering capabilities of the CPU. In the single core test, I got 414 points while on stock settings, and the CPU was drawing 25 watt and the frequency ranging between 4.2 and 4.29 GHz. But when undervolted, the single core score pumped up to 438 with the CPU drawing only 18 watts versus 25 and within the same frequency range. As for the multi-core performance, the score from the stock settings was really bad. I only got 1990 points. But when undervolted, the score pumped up to 2346 points. In both cases, the CPU draws 45 watt at first, then drops to 35 watt as the maximum turbo power limit. While on stock settings, the CPU ran at 2.9 GHz with the 45 watt and dropped to only 2.6 GHz with the 35 watt power consumption. But when undervolted, it ran on 3.3 GHz at 45 watt and 3 GHz at 35 watt. That is 400 MHz difference. So, I decided to run one more test with the turbo power limit set to 45 watt and the CPU ran at 3.3 GHz all the time and the score was 2481 points. In the multi-core performance test, I could lower the CPU temperature from 77 to 73 degrees Celsius only by lifting the laptop a little bit off the desk. So, the better airflow allows dramatically to reduce the temperature of the CPU. So, I recommend to use a cooling pad for even better thermals. Next, I tested Octane Bench 4.0, which tests the GPU rendering capabilities, and the GTX 1650 settled well below the GTX 1060, which is already a faster card, and it beated each of the GTX 980M, the mobile version, the Quadro M5000, and the Quadro T2000. Let's move to the gaming benchmarks. I tested Battlefield 1 as a shooter game on low, medium, and max settings, both when stock and undervolted. You can easily see the performance gain from the undervolting in the frames count, with ultra settings getting 72 versus 70 on average, 55 minimum in both, 40 versus 41 in the 1% low, and 100 frames versus 95 frames in max. While on medium settings, the difference gets even larger, with 135 versus 121 as the max frames, 92 versus 79 as the average, 62 versus 58 as minimum, and 50 versus 47 in the 1% low. The difference is still there, while on low settings too. And I tested Far Cry 5, which almost gives the same result while on medium settings, but at ultra settings you can see the performance gain with 69 frames versus 59 as the max, 51 versus 46 average, 45 versus 31 minimum, and 37 versus 25 as the 1% low. The difference is still noticeable on low settings, with nearly 10 frames difference in each counter. Lastly, I tested Need for Speed Payback for the racing game lovers. The performance gain here still exists, but just ranges between 3 to 6 frames on each setting. So the final conclusion is, this is a very powerful laptop, but you have to do two things exactly. The first thing is undervolting. The second thing is to improve airflow. So you have to provide a cooling pad really for this laptop. And if you want this laptop for productivity, you can get it. You will get very great performance. If you are getting this laptop for gaming, don't expect it to run AAA titles on ultra settings, as it will run below 60 frames per second. But you can expect above 60 if you turn down the graphics a little bit. The last thing is, if you are getting this laptop to work with Photoshop or like to play with colors for video editing, I won't recommend it, as it only covers 54% of sRGB, but if you're looking for raw performance, this is the way to go. So that's it. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to thumbs up if you did, and to subscribe to my channel to see the upcoming videos. See you in the next video. Bye.